There's always a risk when romantically pairing a main character with a side character temporarily. Even if the side character isn't intended to have a large impact on the story or is simply being used to help progress the main romance, you run the gambit of fans preferring that relationship over the intended pairing. Though this isn't just exclusive to temporary love interests. It can also happen with interactions between a main character and a side character whose dynamic is meant to be just platonic. There are a number of reasons why this can happen. It could be that the main character has better chemistry with the side character than the character they're being set up with. Or perhaps the side character is simply more interesting and likable than the main character's love interest. Why, it could even be that the side character is simply a healthier choice for the main character, since the show will insist that the two main characters are made for each other, only for the romance to feel extremely unhealthy due to how one of them won't take no for an answer and the other having such an unhealthy obsession with their crush that they not only believe they have no flaws whatsoever, but will follow them all the way to China. But in the case of Jinko, it's the first two reasons why I prefer it over Zuko. While I understand the appeal of Zutara and will admit that rewatching the series made me a fan of the ship, I discovered that my favorite ship involving Zuko wasn't with a main character, but with a minor character named Jin, the Bai Sing Se girl introduced in The Tale of Zuko. Despite the story being 4 minutes and 22 seconds long, Zuko's relationship with Jin is somehow more engaging than Zuko, along with having more depth. The story introduces Jin to the audience as a customer that Zuko believes has figured out that he and Iroh are Fire Nation due to how often she visits the shop. However, Zuko's suspicions are replaced by sheer confusion and embarrassment when Iroh points out that the reason she has frequented the tea shop is because she has a crush on Zuko. This scene is soon followed by Jin introducing herself and asking out a stunned Zuko on a date, with Iroh saying he'd love to. Now, even though Zuko is incredibly awkward on his date with Jin, he doesn't act like a joke. Him shouting at the waiter over calling Jin his girlfriend and saying she can eat a lot of food is clearly stemming from him being awkward instead of being rude. Like, here's the thing. Zuko didn't have to go on a date with Jin. He could have fought Iroh on the matter, decided to blow off the date, or just be miserable the whole time, but he didn't do any of those things. This is because even though he may have been introduced as an antagonist, Zuko was never a bad guy. Throughout Book 1 and Book 2, Zuko would do things a bad person wouldn't do, such as how he tried saving Zhao despite the fact that Zhao tried to have him killed, or how he rescued Lee from the Earth Kingdom soldiers. At heart, Zuko was always a kind person, he just has a bit of a fiery temper. Zuko's kindness is shown once again, in which after saying that he and Iroh were in a circus, Jin assumes that he can juggle, with Zuko saying in a deadpan manner that he can. As a result, Jin asked him to juggle some things for her. Again, he could have easily refused, especially since he knew he was probably going to make a fool of himself, but he still tried anyway because he's just nice like that. But Zuko's big moment was at the firelight fountain, in which when Jin was disappointed that the candles weren't lit, he decided to light them up. Now think about this for a second. Zuko and Iroh are supposed to be hiding the fact that they're firebenders, with him fully knowing the risk of what he's about to do. But because Jin was so sad about the candles not being lit, Zuko was willing to risk exposure just to make her happy. And let's be honest, Jin definitely realized that Zuko was a firebender after she opened her eyes and saw all the candles lit. Like, you don't have to be a genius to put 2 and 2 together. But the very fact that Jin must have realized that but didn't care says a lot about her character. This leads into a failed awkward kiss in which Zuko gives Jin a coupon for the tea shop, before leading into a genuine kiss between the two that Zuko breaks away from, much to Jin's confusion, before leaving her at the fountain and going back home. I genuinely do think he ended up feeling attraction towards Jin between how he kissed her back and even told Iroh that the date was nice, but as he stated to her, his life is complicated. After all, he's the banished Fire Nation prince wanted by his homeland, with him and his uncle currently under the disguise of both refugees. So it's understandable that he doesn't want to drag Jin into his crazy life and get hurt as a result. Like, wow. I am both amazed how in such a short amount of time the show was able to make such a compelling relationship, and furious that more wasn't done with it. This relationship wasn't just good because of the depth it has, but also the chemistry between Zuko and Jin. Despite her time being brief, the show is able to flesh out Jin surprisingly well, with her being a very sweet and playful character who doesn't care that her crush is a firebender, since him lighting the lanterns tell her that Lee is a sweet guy. Jin's upbeat and forward personality also perfectly complements Zuko's awkwardness and seriousness. And the concept of this relationship is amazing. A romance between the banished prince of the Fire Nation and a down-to-earth civilian girl? That's the kind of diametrical relationship I love. And think of all the untapped angst potential if the two became a couple before the Book 2 finale. We could have had a whole scene of Jin saying that she doesn't care who Zuko really is, she still loves him, which would add another layer of heartbreak to when Zuko decides to side with Azula. I fully believe that if things played out differently in Book 2, there's a future in which Zuko would have never thought about going back home and being content to live in Ba Sing Se, with him deciding to pursue a romance with Jin. But what are your thoughts on Jin as a character along with her relationship with Zuko? Do you think more should have been done with this relationship? And do you prefer it over other Zuko ships? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, make sure to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and click the bell so you'll be notified when I make a new video. If you want to follow me on social media, you can find the links to them in the description box below. Until next time, I'm Meowth here.